Swami Vivekananda became a very important reformer of Hinduism, and also an inspiration to nationalism. His impact is different from that of Raja Rammohan Roy. Let us see how these two differ. Vivekananda, he first studied Western philosophy, and he used to go to Brahmo meetings. But from his childhood, he had a fascination of becoming a monk. Okay, and interested in religious issues. He used to ask people who were coming to Brahmo meetings whether any of them has seen God. Surely nobody was in a position to say, yes, I saw God. Okay. But then somebody advised him that if you are interested in finding out really a saint, go to a priest in the Kali temple, Dakshineshwar. And it was there he met Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a very religious person from his childhood. He had an experience of trance even in his early childhood. We don't know what actually happens in a trance, but he had this experience of trance. And as he grew up, he would have trances, and in the trance, he would see Kali. Okay. And also, he interacted with many religious traditions, including Tantric, and also he went to experience with different religions also, including what is it like being a Muslim. He had experience across religions. And through various practices, through various ways and also religions, he would get a similar experience. So he came to the conclusion that all paths lead to God. Ramakrishna's approach is not scholarly and rational. It is experiential. Okay. Not thinking oriented type. And that experience was giving him a kind of ecstasy, God intoxication. He said, reading scriptures is like carrying tons of sugar but not tasting the sweetness. And religion is not worth without seeing God. So, to this man Vivekananda approached and asked, have you seen God? And Ramakrishna answered, yes, with a difference. What is the difference? Difference is that I see God more clearly than I see you. Vivekananda, of course, at that time called an Aryan, was shocked. But he did not believe. He thought this man was somewhat crazy. But Vivekananda used to go and gradually was drawn. And there were many discussions, many arguments, and finally Vivekananda became his most famous disciple. Okay. So how did these things alter his views on God when he was during Brahmo Samaj? To Brahmo Samaj, only Vedanta is true. Only formless God is true. No forms, no idols. Okay. And also no gurus, no avatars. But Vivekananda had to drop all those things. Vivekananda came to believe idolatry is a way of reaching God. One can have gurus. And he held Ramakrishna as an avatar. And religion is not simply a matter of reason but experience. And it can even be revelation. It is about tasting sweetness. So, not only Vivekananda, many used to come to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and they are very well read and scholarly. And one person who used to come regularly was Keshav Chandra Sen. It was Keshav Chandra Sen who was instrumental in popularizing Ramakrishna teaching. So he was very logical, rational, but people like him were simply shocked by the originality and experience of this God intoxicated man. So Vivekananda's version of Hinduism changed. Hinduism changed. So definitely in these ways Hinduism is brought closer to the people and the actual practice of the Indians, unlike Brahmos Hinduism. But then, does this Hinduism stand the scrutiny of Western ideals? Very much, because Vedanta meant all are equal, because God is there in everyone. So it meets the criteria, and also it meets the criteria of religious harmony, because Ramakrishna through experience realized that all religions or various paths within Hinduism finally are the ways to reach God. Okay. In fact, there was one guru by name Totapuri wanted to convince Ramakrishna that why are you obsessed with Kali? Why don't you see that God is formless? And Ramakrishna experienced God as a formless person also, as a formless entity also. But so experiencing formless as formless entity also is, to him, is God realization. One can experience as formless entity and also as a form. So Ramakrishna stood for amalgamation of various approaches. So this Vivekananda is completely convinced that this is what religion is, and this is what Hinduism is. So presence of Ramakrishna Parahamsa at that time is a great boon to the intellectuals at the time, because this is a kind of a manifestation of ancient wisdom of India as an authentic proof of the worth of Hinduism, worth of religion. Okay. So it is Vivekananda's experience with Ramakrishna gave him a lot of confidence. The confidence in Hinduism, in his understanding. And with his confidence, he could criticize Hindu evils. He could answer Western critics. In fact, he was in a position to preach spirituality to the Western audience. It was his speech in the Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893 that made him popular in America and Europe. And the fact that many Europeans and Americans were listening to Vivekananda, a Hindu monk, made the people here confident of their religion. Because here is a man who is teaching what is spirituality to the West. So our religion is, after all, not so bad. So Vivekananda became an inspirational figure. Okay. So with that confidence, he looked at what are the evils of the society, evils of Indian society, and also he redefined the purpose of religion in a poor country like India. Okay, and let us see how he did this. For example, against caste, he said this: all knowledge is in every soul, regardless of caste order. The same power is in every man. From Vedanta. Okay. Against untouchability, this is what he said: we are neither Vedantists, nor Puranics, nor Tantrics. We are don't touches. If this goes on for another century, every one of us will be in a lunatic asylum. No religion on earth preaches the dignity of humanity in such a lofty strain as Hinduism, as in moksha. And no religion on earth treats upon the necks of the poor and the low in such a fashion as Hinduism. Next, and he felt that India did not pursue material power. So this is what, look at the Western and other nations which are now almost borne down, half naked and degraded by political ambitions. And religion was the consideration in India, while politics, power, or even intellect form a secondary consideration. Politics, power, or even intellect. India, it is experience and revelation that matters. And political greatness or military power will never be the mission of my race. So, he is saying that essentially India is superior in spiritual terms and not economic terms and not military terms. If India has to teach in spiritual matters. So, in this way, he is bringing up what would be India's identity. He is constructing India's identity in terms of India's strength. But why did we become like this, enslaved and impoverished? Vivekananda says we missed material things. The medieval religious sects had created an unfortunate tendency to find salvation through escape from worldly experience. So by focusing on the otherworldly, we missed the worldly, and that is how we went down. So he is saying that we should reverse this process. We should not neglect the material world. If you can't feed your own family or dole out food to two of your fellow men, you cannot do even an ordinary piece of work for the common good in harmony with others, and you are running after mukti. Okay. And then see, people differ in terms of what role state should have and what role society should have. Vivekananda's clear priority is about higher role to the society. Okay? And not to the state. Higher role to morality, not to law. Okay. This is what he said. No nation is great or good because parliament enacts this or that, but because its men are great and good. Men cannot be made virtuous by an act of parliament, and that is why religion is of deeper importance than politics, since it goes to the root, deals with the essentials of conduct. And when state tries to control through rigid laws and threats of punishment to follow that path with unconditional obedience, the destiny of mankind becomes no better than that of a machine. And he took party politics as no different from sectarianism. And next, on law, he said, the very word sannyasim means the divine outlaw. It is freedom alone that is desirable. It is not law that we want, but ability to break law. We want to be outlaws. And if you are bound by the laws, you will be a lump of clay. Our aim should be to allow the individual to move towards this freedom, more of goodness and less of artificial love. Okay, because if we are considering any political thought, or we need to see what a person thinks in terms of state versus society. Vivekananda is very clearly for society. And then see, look at this. In the days of famine and flood and disease and pestilence, tell me where your congressmen are. Will it do to say, hand over the government to us? If there be 2,000 people working in several districts, won't it be turn of the English to consult you? So let the Congress do social work. And the government will come to you. So, it is about voluntary action by committed individuals. This is what Vivekananda believes in. And what India needs is education. And education can be part of that action by the people who are interested in the welfare of India. The higher classes in India and America are the same, but the distance is infinite between the lower classes between the two countries. When one great man dies, we must sit for centuries to have another. They can produce them as fast as they die. Why so? Because they have such a bigger field of recruiting their great ones. We have so small. So educate and raise the masses. Thus alone a nation is possible. And he believed religion is not for academic speculation or search for moksha, but for service, to educate. So he created Ramakrishna Math, and monks there are supposed to do social work. Okay. And then he also made certain observations about what was going on around that time. He made observations on the nature of British rule. This is about the British rule. For writing a few words of innocent criticism, men are being hurried to transportation for life, others imprisoned without trial, and nobody knows when his head will be off. There has been a reign of terror in India for some years. British soldiers are killing our men and outraging our women, only to be sent home with passage and pension at our expense. We are in a terrible gloom. Where is the Lord? This shows what he thought of the British rule. And what are Indians doing? The highly educated and prominent men among you form themselves into societies and clamor at the top of their voices, O English rulers, admit our countrymen to the higher offices of the state, relieve us of famines, and so on. This rendering of the air day and night with the eternal cry of give and give. The burden of all this speech is to give to us, give more to us. So Vivekananda is thinking these educated Indians are only more or less begging. Okay. And then Vivekananda made many statements which show he was highly patriotic. I am grateful to the lands of the West for many warm hearts that received me with all the love that pure and disinterested souls alone can give. But my life's allegiance is to this, my motherland. And if I had 1,000 lives, every moment of the whole series would be consecrated to your service, my countrymen. And then he said, if foreign friends, you come with genuine sympathy to help and not to destroy, Godspeed to you. But if by abuses incessantly hurled against the head of a prostrate race, you mean only the triumphant assertion of the moral superiority of your nation, let me tell you, the Hindu will be head and shoulders above all other nations in the world as the moral race. So, if you think too high of yourself, then we won't keep quiet. We will be head and shoulders above all other nations in the world as a moral race, it seems. So, you can say these are things like egoistic nationalism. Just nation picking up an ego. Okay, how dare you hurt me? Okay, I will win. I will outdo you. I will outsmart you. Okay. Or I will be born here for 1,000 lives. So, things like this contribute to egoism of collective ego and may have contributed later to Hindutva. Okay, now there is a question on who is a father of modern India. In 1933, To commemorate centenary, a meeting was held, centenary of Rammohan Roy. And in that meeting, Rabindranath Tagore, Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, and Bipin Chandra Pal spoke of Rammohan Roy as father of modern India. Okay. So that they did in 1933. But if we compare between Vivekananda and Roy, who may be regarded as father? Vivekananda made Hinduism closer to people, unlike Roy, and more critical, and also he was preaching the West and much more confident. And also you have pride, ego, and hurt. So, to the question, who is a father of modern India? Father. To be a father is to give birth to some entity, the birth with an identity, with an ego, with an ability to be hurt, and ability to take proud of, to be ability to take pride. So you can see a kind of confident, resurgent, assertive, with a clear identity. I think that can be more due to Vivekananda than Rammohan Roy. Rammohan Roy was the one who brought modernization, who brought modern ideas. Okay, but modern India as an entity with an ego, which finally also responsible for Hindu-Muslim divisions. Okay, is due to Vivekananda, and maybe Vivekananda may be considered a better candidate for father.